Hello again and welcome to the video. So today we've got something really nice to have a look at. It's this Roco model. It's number 04148A, a Deutsche Bahn 2-car EMU, and it's called an Elektro Triebzug. Probably not pronounced that correctly. Let's have a look and see what we've got here. I got this second hand and it is presented in this fantastic looking Roco box. You can see here made in Austria, and here is all the details, HO scale and the number, and that is of the Deutsche Bahn. So let's go ahead and have a look and see what we've got inside here. And we have this little pin badge here. So what we've got here is a power car with 2 pantograph pickups and a trailer car. So let's start off with the power car and we'll get that out of the packaging. Now that we've got this first model out of the packaging, you can see straight away that it does look like a fantastic model. It's got a lot of detail on it and a lot of interesting parts to have a look at, and it really does look quite impressive. Let's start off at this end of the model, and you can see that the cream line goes all the way around and it is very nicely printed on there. There's no fading or anything, and you can see that it has these lights with the silver surrounds. The glazing is flush fit, and you can see that both of them have windscreen wipers that have been picked out in black. They're also very clear, so you can see inside, and there you can see a driver. You can see that this cream line is joined by another one further down the side of the body, and there's a little cream flash here on the driver's door. There's a lot of detail as well, things like rivets and panel seams and even a gutter around the top of the door. This is really quite an incredible, good looking model. Further down, the passenger door here is recessed, and the printing, it doesn't go down the corners here. That could be prototypical, not sure, but it does continue on the doors with no problems. And then further down you can see things like this Deutsche Bahn logo with the number here 485022-8, and there's a second class symbol up here. And then finally at this end of the model there is some numbers here printed just between these windows. So inside the model there's no seating here. It looks as though it's just all electric circuit and whatever is driving this model underneath. At this end of the model there isn't any driver, so I'm guessing we'll need to run this the other direction to get benefit from having that driver figure. So just looking below the body, it's got some really nicely detailed bogies here. They've been molded very well. They've got some step detail, lots of rivet detail as well, and there's even some printing here on the black part of the chassis. These are very, very small. I can barely see them with my naked eye here, but hopefully you can see them on the video, and it's really nice to see that they're here printed on the model. And there's other parts here as well, like this part here. I'm not quite sure what that is, but you can see that it's molded away from the rest of the model and is really quite nicely done. And there's other deep relief parts like this bit here. It looks like both of the bogies are driven, and the couplings are in NEM pockets as well, so you can change these if you want. It's a bit disappointing to see that these gear wheels are made of plastic and not metal, and this end here it doesn't have a coupling. That's quite annoying because the driver's on this end, so I would have thought that the couplings should be on the other end. So up top there's this really cool looking additional metal part here, maybe it's some aerial or something, and the pantographs are also made in metal and they're spring loaded and they work very well. They're very detailed with this copper top part as well, which is maybe indicative that this maybe can pick up from overhead electrics as well. There's no instructions in this box to say whether it does or not, but these pantographs are certainly very good looking. And there's this delicate cable running between the 2 pantographs as well, which is raised up above the roof level, and that is really fantastically done as well. So let's have a look at the other coach. So when I pulled the other coach out, I found that it has some instructions underneath it, which I didn't see before when I was looking at it. This is all written in German, but I'm guessing it's perhaps a history of this locomotive. And you can see here it's from 1956. On the other side here, you can see some details of additional parts, I think they are, that you can fit onto here. I didn't see any additional parts in the box, so maybe they've been lost over time. Not quite sure how old this model is. If you know, please add it to the comments below. Okay, so this is the second model in the set. It's a coach. You can see it's got a bit of damage here, which is a real shame. You can see that there is a problem here. I'll maybe need to take this screw out and have a look and see what's happening here. Okay, so I'm just going to undo these 2 screws. Okay, so a little time has passed and you can see that I've had to take this model apart. I've now realised what the problem is, but there is also some other problems as well, as always is the case. I think the major one is that the metal part here in the middle of the coach is actually bent, and that has bent the chassis. Not quite sure how that's happened, but nevertheless that is bent, so we'll need to take this off and straighten it up. But also I've noticed that it's got quite a nice set of lighting on this, lighting in the main part of the coach, and also at one end here, that I guess this is the driving receiving end. But you can see that there's a problem here. This cable's come off and needs soldered back on, and at the other end both cables have come off of the bogie, so I'm going to have to solder those back onto here before putting this back together. So that's going to take me a little while. Let's get going. So I've just pulled this metal part off and you can see the problem here, so I'm just going to straighten that out with a pair of pliers. Okay, so that's just broken it. That's not very good. And we still have the problem on this bit where it's not square either. So I think this is probably indicative of the age of this model. It's just broken it. Okay, so you can see the problem that we've got here, that the metal weight seems to have expanded over time. That is what is causing it bend in the plastic here. So I'm thinking that if we can maybe shorten this piece of metal and just glue this back onto here, hopefully that should be enough. And glue these down as well. So let's see if we can go ahead and do that. I think that's going to work okay once we glue it all back down, but you can see what the problem was here. This piece seemed to have expanded, or maybe the plastic had contracted over time, but you can also see how crumbly it was as well, so it wasn't a good piece of metal anyway. So I'm just going to tidy up all this and then get back on to doing what we're doing next. Okay, I'm back. So I actually think that weight was made of lead. So I did wash my hands, health and safety again, and also now we're going to be doing some soldering. So again, there's another health and safety warning here with the obvious things. So what we're going to try and do is attach the cables to these 2 points here on this bogie. So that attaches to the pickup from the wheels, but you can see that the cables are up here. So we just need to get those off so that we can attach them to the bogie first and then feed them through to this point and then solder them on up here. On the other end of the coach, we've got one soldered at the top and one hanging here below. So we just need to attach this one to the top. So it goes up through the coach here and it will need attached somewhere around about here. So I'm just going to use a crocodile clip. That worked first time. I'm quite surprised. I'm not usually that good with the soldering iron. Okay, so I've got those on and nobody died, which is great. So let's get these things together. So here we have the chassis and it has this part here which the bogie revolves on, and it has these 2 holes which correspond to 2 little lugs down on the bogie. I'm not actually sure whether we're going to be able to get this to fit because of the solder. I'm not very good at it, so we might have to do a bit of surgery here just to file down this solder a little bit. So I've just got a little needle file here. Okay, I think that might be enough. Let's give it a go. Okay, so that looks as though we've got this back together. Okay, so we've got the wires coming through now, and I just need to put them each side of this coupling. And there's a little spring that fits here. Wow, that was really tricky to get on, but there we are, we've got it on now. So the next part is to get these cables up through the top of the body. So the metal parts we're going to super glue back in, and I'm just going to use some normal Loctite super glue. So all those pieces are back in. It doesn't look great, but it's okay. I see that the wires should have gone through these holes before going up into the body, so that's a bit annoying. Let's just pull them out and put them through here. So with a bit of persuasion, we've managed to get this back together, but I do have this spare piece here, so I think that's just going to have to end up in the bin. So back at this end now, we need to thread the wire up through the body. So we're getting on quite good now. We've got the coach back together. We just need to get these wires soldered onto the top. So I'm just going to test this with some power. So that's great, all the lights work. So all we need to do now is get the roof back on this coach. When I took it off, it did have this piece of paper inside the roof. I guess that's just to reflect light away from the roof and down onto the coach. So I'll just put that back on there, and then this should just clip back on. So there we have it, it's all back together now, but this coach did fight us along the way there. The chassis still has a bit of a bend on it here, and also over here where we had those problems with the lead weights inside, it had kind of warped. So that's a real shame. You can see that this still moves, so maybe this needs a little bit of extra glue or something to hold that back together. But if you're thinking about buying one of these models, this is something to look out for, because this might not be just because of this model, it might be a common problem. Okay, so let's have a look at the driving car. Okay, so having another look at this, it seems that this one doesn't have the same problem as the coach. Anyway, let's see if we can get this running and see how it performs. Okay, we've got it on the test track and the power's on. Let's see how we get on. So it needed a little bit of a push to get going, but once it did, it started to run smoothly, so that's great news. So I've just swapped the coupling to the other end of the driving unit so that the driver can look out and take control of this train. And I've coupled the two items up together now so you can have a look. So I'm just going to apply some power so you can see them moving. So the motor doesn't seem to be super great on this model. It may need a bit of a clean, and maybe the wheels do as well, although I didn't notice any problems when I was having a look over it. It could just be indicative of the age of this model and that maybe the motor is getting a bit tired if it's been used a lot. But it seems to run pretty well, and overall this set looks pretty cool. It would benefit from some close couplings because there seems to be a big gap between the driving unit and the passenger one. Overall this looks pretty good. So let's see how much each of these weigh. So the driving unit weighs 345 grams and the coach weighs 171 grams. So we've had some fun with this Roco 2-car set today. The coach has obviously got a problem, and that's caused it to be a bit temperamental, I think. The driving car hasn't got those problems and the mechanism seems to work okay. However, the fact that it doesn't have any interior because of probably all the electrics underneath is a bit of a shame. Overall, these are very attractive models. I really like the style of them and the colour is great. They have some nice features and some annoying features. So they're a bit of a mixed bag, but they're certainly quite interesting, and they'd make a great addition to a model railway if you were to. I would recommend that you check for any problems with the coach if you are thinking about buying this one. But they are what they are, a bit temperamental, but they've got a lot of features and really nice parts to them, and this makes them really appealing. And with that in mind, I would recommend, if you're modelling the German railways of this era, to have a look out for this model because it would be an interesting addition. Anyway, I'll put the driving unit on the turntable so you can see all the way around. In the meantime, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to enjoy more videos like this. But that's it for today. See you next time.